Turning to crime is certainly not an easy life, and some people just aren't suited for a career in criminal activity. But some folks just can't help but be drawn into it, like a moth to a flame. These individuals attempted a life of crime, but their failed attempts taught them very quickly that it just wasn't meant to be. 20 dumbest robberies caught on camera. You can kinda tell that this customer is up to no good when she repeatedly gives the side eye to the security camera. Continuing with the crime was her second mistake. As you can see, the customer gives the cashier some money, then goes for some change in her purse. Some dialogue is exchanged, the cashier accidentally gives back more change than necessary, and the quick change scam is complete. Ever heard of it? A quick change scam is when an individual targets inexperienced cashiers by paying for small-priced items with a large bill, like a $50 bill. As the cashier is arranging change for the customer, the scammer tries to confuse the employee. Typically, this involves asking to exchange the bills of smaller denominations for larger ones, or fussing over exact change, whatever it takes to disrupt the cashier's train of thought. In the confusion, the suspect would tell the cashier how much money to give back, thus shortchanging the cashier. In some instances, suspects work in teams of two, where one suspect would handle the money exchange while the second suspect acts as a distraction to confuse the cashier even more. Detectives suggest to avoid being a victim of the scam, only complete the transaction for the purchase and then close the cash register. Lucky for this employee, it was all caught on camera. Nice try. Our guess is that these guys planned this robbery for days because they don't seem to be wasting any time. They know what they came to do and they want to do it as quickly as possible. But the sad thing for them is that they tried to steal and failed. Their mission was to steal money from an ATM at a gas station for 5 minutes during an early morning raid in Washington. Poor bungling crooks. It didn't work out. Through the surveillance footage, we can see the two unidentified men breaking into Ben's Market 76 gas station on Blaine Road at around 4:30 a.m., January 17, 2023. Yeah, we got all the specifics. Here's another fun fact about the robbery. The red Jeep was also stolen. They used this stolen Jeep and a tow strap to steal an ATM from a convenience store. Pretty wild if you ask us. Stealing an ATM? You've got to be really brave to attempt that. The men are dressed in the typical robber's fits, hoodies and hats. They take out the yellow tow strap and attach it to the back of the car. The man in orange attaches the other end of the strap to the front doors of the gas station, and the one in the car pulls away and busts the door open. Great teamwork. However, it seems the guy in orange did most of the work. He runs into the station and drags out the ATM, and his partner continuously pulls forward and reverses to hit and destroy the money withdrawing machine. Sadly, the men are unable to access the money despite their efforts. They keep at it until they realize the crime is fruitless. Good thing they realized that in 5 minutes. They took off in their stolen car, and not too long after, it was found abandoned in the woods. Poor drink. One will think that this man was running a campaign called Quench the Thirst of ATMs. You think that's ridiculous? Let's tell you what he did. The Chinese man visited an ATM that people use to withdraw and deposit money, inserted his card, and then poured a drink into the machine. Later identified as Mr. Wang, this man was caught doing the same thing at 2 other ATMs at 2 different banks. His intention was that the machines would spill out money. Who on earth told him that that would work? The man was caught on the surveillance cameras of the 3 banks, and an investigation was carried out almost immediately. The police found Mr. Wang and detained him. That was well deserved. Now, here are the most tragic parts of the story. Beside the fact that Wang was moneyless and probably uneducated to attempt such a thing, he also landed himself in much bigger trouble. The 3 ATMs were damaged after he soaked them in water and drinks. And guess how much all 3 cost? $22,000. Where will Mr. Wang even find that money? His little science project failed to work, and now this. This will probably be one of, if not the biggest, regret of his life. But we've learned something from Mr. Wang. Never pour liquid into an ATM. It's not going to spill out a dime. Laptop thief. It's not enough that this man was a shoplifter. He also used his child as an accomplice. Now, that's a big fat no. In the city of Chelyabinsk in southern Russia's Chelyabinsk Oblast, a thief uses his toddler as cover to steal a laptop from a computer shop. The very brave man shuts one of the laptops on display and hides it under his sweater, tucking it into his trousers. He then picks up his baby boy and holds him in front to prevent anyone from spotting the laptop underneath. He thought he was smart, but it didn't work. The CCTV camera captured everything clearly. The local police even posted the video online. We don't know if he was ever found, but we hope he was. His family would have been disappointed by the fact that he took his toddler on such a mission. As if stealing isn't a crime enough, why take your child with you? He waltzes out of the shop with the laptop that costs over $300. Hopefully, he was found and asked to return either the money or the computer. He should also have been warned never to take his kid on such a trip again. Take that boy to a football game. Take him to get ice cream. Take him to the park. Take him shopping. Take him for a walk. Don't take him shoplifting. That falls under the list of don'ts in the father-child code book. Crawl on the floor like worms. No, these are not Rihanna's backup dancers from her Super Bowl performance. These are actually burglars trying to steal something. Don't know if you feel the same way, but we wish the video got to the point where they stood up and actually stole something. This group of 3 thieves were nicknamed the Inchworm Bandits. Isn't that fitting? Apparently, they were crawling like worms to avoid being caught by the camera. Maybe it worked because we can't see their faces, but this is ridiculous, we've got to admit. It happened sometime in November 2018 at Houston's Piggy's Kitchen and Bar. They ended up stealing $450, which was the tip money for the servers who had worked over the weekend. It's sad that they just crawled into the bar and stole someone's weekend earnings. And that's not all, they also caused $2,000 in damage. After watching the video, the police looked into whether they were the same suspects who committed a similar crime at a pizzeria the week before. We hope they were caught, and if we could, we'd commend and ridicule them for their crawling technique. It's hilarious. Other people are stealing boldly in broad daylight, hiding laptops under their sweaters. And there you have 3 crawling like worms? Just ridiculous. Idiotic burglar. Ways to identify a novice burglar. 1, they don't look for the easiest and quickest way to break in. We'd say that this burglar just embarrassed himself. He must have felt so annoyed with himself, like, what did I just do? In case you're wondering what's happening, we'll tell you. This clueless burglar broke into the window of a doorless garage. The clip shows a man approaching a building with no one else around. He seems to be confident in that fact. He then inspects the property for an entry point. If he was smart enough, he'd have walked a few meters to the other end and found that the garage was wide open. In fact, doorless. But he doesn't do that. He exerts his strength as he attempts to remove a board blocking the window in his bid to get inside the building. He successfully removes it and jumps into the building. Typical burglar way. But it was at this moment he realized he was stupid. Seconds later, he walks out of the garage realizing that his efforts were pointless. There were no doors. He could have just walked in, walked out, saving his strength for a burglary mission that would actually require it. Our favorite part of the incident is the part that nobody gets to see, the part where the owner of the property watches the CCTV footage. They would have the best laugh watching the burglar embarrass himself like that. What a joy it is to see a thief waste his time. Instant karma. Instant karma. We like the sound of this one. On Saturday, March 17, 2018, 2 thieves in the UK were ridiculously unfortunate. In just a few minutes, they lost everything they'd stolen. Big ups, Mother Nature. So the 2 men walked into a travel agency in Greater Manchester and ordered the staff to give them money. The staff had no choice but to let go of the money. The men stuffed the money in their pants and walked out. What they didn't know was that the travel agency had a partnership with the wind. Seconds after they stepped out, a gust of wind blew all the money away. Yes, all the money. Passerby probably felt pity for them for losing money to the wind, but the staff members back at the agency must have burst into handshakes and claps and hugs, celebrating the demise of the robbers. In the video, one of the thieves chases after a wad of notes haplessly after they're scattered all around the alley. The more he chases after the notes, the farther the wind blows them away. We don't know about you, but this is amazing to see. We could watch them chase after that money all day. they'd be sure to check the weather forecast before going on their next mission. Fails miserably. We're really loving these videos. It feels good to see these thieves frustrated. This particular thief did try his best. His attempt is similar to the first guys we talked about. He wanted to steal an ATM from a gas station. However, he failed miserably. The video begins with the Australian man driving a stolen truck to the store in Townsville, Queensland. He parks, gets down, and smashes through the glass door with a paving slab. He's been called Australia's dumbest criminal. This man attached a chain from his car to the ATM. Now, this was his stupid move. He failed to check if the chain was securely fastened. He just drove away, hoping that the machine would come along with him. Despite facing a setback in his initial attempt, he doesn't lose hope and decides to give it another shot. He tries to join the two pieces of the broken chain together, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to work out. Frustrated, he gives up and drives off. He should get a stronger chain next time, if there'll be a next time, that is. So we went back home without the ATM, with half of the chain in the stolen truck. Except he'd parked halfway and abandoned the truck in the woods, as is most common with robbers. Only 13 seconds. Now this is a pro. It took her only 13 seconds to steal a flat-screen TV from an appliance store. 13 seconds. This phenomenal robbery happened in Costa Rica, and honestly, it's kinda mind-blowing. How was she able to do that? The footage shocked both the workers at the store and on the internet. The attendants at the store said it all happened so fast they could hardly believe it. We can't even blame them. We wouldn't believe it either if we didn't have this video as proof. She and her accomplice had probably practiced 1,000,000 times, or they'd stolen flat-screen TVs 100 times before. Let's talk about how efficiently the woman was able to walk with the TV in between her legs. One commenter said, "How could the TV not slip out?" Another, "Those skirts are meant for stolen articles." We can't help but agree with these guys. That skirt should be displayed in a museum. If she and her accomplice ever got caught, we hope the police asked them how they did it. It's good to have one very smart shoplifter on the list. The only rule she broke is the one that says don't take something that doesn't belong to you. But she broke the rule in a very sleek way, at least, walking out of the shop majestically as if she hadn't just committed a crime. There must have been a getaway car just outside the door because she couldn't have gone too far with the TV between her thighs.
Authorities in Pinellas County, Florida say that a local man called police only to find himself in handcuffs recently after he tried to report an alleged robbery but evidently failed to think through the context of the situation first. According to reports, the whole thing started sometime on September 22nd when police in the city of Largo received a call from a man named Eric Thomas. The 33-year-old said that he had been the victim of a theft. A customer of his had stolen $10 from him while they were in the middle of a transaction. Things only got more confusing when officers discovered what line of work Thomas was in. You see, the 33-year-old was a drug dealer and had been robbed while trying to sell marijuana. While the man who robbed Thomas was now long gone, he was found to be in possession of more than 40 grams of marijuana, as well as 2 baggies of cocaine. In his conversations with police, he apparently also admitted his intent to sell the drugs. As a result, he was arrested and slapped with a pair of felony drug charges. Authorities in Lancaster County, Nebraska say that a Texas county commissioner is facing charges this week after he recently tried to liven up a wedding he was officiating and got a whole lot more than he bargained for. According to reports, the whole situation unfolded on the afternoon of September 30th when the suspect, 62-year-old Michael Gardner, was officiating a family wedding in Denton, Nebraska. Evidently deciding that the marriage of 2 loved ones wasn't exciting enough on its own, he decided to spice things up by trying to, quote, get everyone's attention with a bang. He allegedly did this by pulling out a Pietta 1860 snub-nosed revolver, which he planned to fire a blank round from in the air. Oh yeah, we should mention that the blank round was one he made himself by stuffing black powder into an empty casing and gluing it shut. If you haven't already guessed, this went very badly. For starters, when Gardner went to cock the gun, his fingers slipped off the hammer, meaning that he ended up firing it in front of him rather than into the air. His poorly designed blank round also malfunctioned, turning the wad of glue that was meant to cap the round into a makeshift bullet, one that promptly hit his 12-year-old grandson in the left shoulder. Yeah, there's always that one guy at the wedding, isn't there? Anyway, thankfully the boy was okay, but as you might imagine, police weren't super happy with Gardner. He was arrested and booked into Lancaster County Jail on a charge of felony child abuse. I can't imagine he'll be invited to officiate more family weddings anytime soon. Authorities in Pinellas County, Florida, say that a local man is facing charges this week after he allegedly attacked his 103-year-old grandmother, then offered an incredibly lame excuse for his actions. The whole thing started at around 4:15 in the morning on October 11th, when police in the city of Largo were called about a noise complaint at a home on San Rafael Drive. Officers arrived to find a 103-year-old woman named Cecilia Baxis, who said that she had just been assaulted by her grandson, 52-year-old Gregory Baxis. According to Cecilia, she had been asleep in bed that morning when Gregory came into her room and started flicking the lights on and off while calling her a bitch. The abuse quickly escalated when he slapped her in the face and grabbed her by the head and began to shake her, after which he allegedly pulled her off of the bed forcefully by her arms. She claimed she was only up for a couple of seconds when her grandson pulled the mattress off of her bed, then pushed her back down onto the hard surface of the box spring underneath. When asked for his version of events, Gregory reportedly rattled off a number of excuses, none of which made a whole lot of sense. At first, he denied any kind of assault, though claimed that he had tried to wake his grandma up because she was always waking him up early. As for the mattress, he claimed that he pulled it off because he needed to wash the sheets. Seems legit, right? I mean, I too routinely rip my entire mattress off the bed just to get the sheets off. Oh wait, I'm sorry, no one does that. That's crazy. Anyway, when police weren't buying this excuse, Gregory apparently switched to a different, albeit no less ridiculous explanation. He reportedly said he grabbed his grandmother by the arms and did the rest of it because, quote, she came at him. It's at this point that I should mention that Gregory is 6'3" and 237 pounds, and reiterate that his grandmother is, well, a 103-year-old grandmother. Gregory was arrested by police and has now been charged with battery on a person 65 years of age or older. Apparently, he was also arrested back in May after he allegedly caused a drunken disturbance at his girlfriend's house where he instigated a fight with one neighbor and grabbed a second neighbor by the arm. However, it appears prosecutors declined to pursue charges in that case.
Authorities in Waukesha County, Wisconsin say that a woman is facing charges this week, nearly a month after she allegedly threatened several employees at a local fast food restaurant after becoming irate over the conditions of her french fries. According to reports, the whole thing started sometime on August 30th when the suspect, 59-year-old Brenna Gottschalk, walked into the McDonald's on the 300 block of North Moreland Boulevard in the city of Brookfield. At first, employees' interactions with Gottschalk started off normal. She purchased a combo meal, sat down, and proceeded to eat most of it, to the point that she apparently looked like she was done. However, instead of leaving, a few minutes later, Gottschalk reportedly approached the restaurant's front counter and started to complain that there were burnt ends on some of the leftover french fries she hadn't eaten. She then began to walk behind the counter and towards the kitchen area, evidently planning to help herself to a fresh order. When Gottschalk was stopped by a staff member and informed she couldn't be in there, things apparently got more heated. The 59-year-old allegedly became even more argumentative, then bizarrely began claiming that all of the employees were drug dealers and that the police were on their way to arrest them. When that didn't work, Gottschalk reportedly claimed that she had a gun and was going to, quote, shoot up the restaurant. At that point, police were on their way, though presumably to Gottschalk's surprise, they were coming for her. When they arrived, she was on her way out of the McDonald's and thankfully was found not to have any weapons in her possession. This week, the 59-year-old was charged with 1 count of disorderly conduct over the incident. She faces up to 90 days in jail if convicted.
Authorities in Polk County, Florida say that a 41-year-old wanted man's plans to avoid capture hilariously backfired last week after he attempted to use grade school level mind games to try and fool police into thinking that he wasn't inside of a house where he was clearly hiding out. According to reports, the whole thing started on the afternoon of October 14th, when Polk County investigators received information that a man that they were looking for, 41-year-old Johnny Yates, was at a residence on West 10th Street in the city of Lakeland. Yates was wanted for aggravated battery, false imprisonment, and tampering in a second-degree felony, so police made their way to the address in question to see if they could find him. When officers arrived at the scene around 2:45 p.m., though, things quickly took an amusing turn when they received a rather unusual greeting outside. On the porch of the home was a large dry erase whiteboard with a message that read, quote, "Johnny Yates does not live here." Deciding that the message seemed super legit and definitely something they should trust 100%, police packed it up for the day and went home. Hopefully they would find Johnny Yates another day. Oh, sorry, wait, no, of course that's not what happened. Like literally, that sounds like the kind of thing a child would write on the side of a treehouse to hide from their parents because they didn't want to have meatloaf for dinner or something. Anyway, as you might imagine, police were not deterred by the dry erase whiteboard and were able to confirm that Yates was inside the residence when they questioned someone who left the house. Officers then attempted to get the 41-year-old to surrender by calling for him over a loudspeaker, though no one came out. After a round of tear gas was deployed inside, 4 people ran from the house, though still there was no Johnny Yates. He was finally found hiding in a modified chest of drawers after a second round of gas was used, followed by a police canine. According to the Polk County Sheriff's Office, Yates was arrested at the scene along with the 4 people who initially refused to cooperate with officers. They were all slapped with a charge of resisting and taken to the county jail. Representatives from the West Virginia State Fire Marshal's office say that a 32-year-old man is officially facing charges after he allegedly burned his own house down earlier this month because he didn't want to clean up a mess left by his new dog. According to reports, the whole thing started sometime on October 6th when dispatchers in Randolph County received a 911 call from the suspect, 32-year-old Randy Nethkin. Nethkin stated that his house in the community of Maybe was on fire and that the blaze had originated in the attic. Upon extinguishing the flames, though, almost immediately things didn't add up. Despite what Nethkin had told emergency responders, the fire had not originated in the attic. In fact, it was clear that multiple fires had been started all over the residence, each of which were separate and were from different heat sources. In other words, this was arson. When Nethkin was confronted with this information at the end of the investigation roughly 2 weeks later, he apparently admitted to what had really happened. He allegedly told authorities that he burned his own house down because his new puppy had pooped all over the place, and he didn't feel like cleaning it up. As if this wasn't wild enough, police say that after the fire, Nethkin went online and created a GoFundMe campaign to try and raise money to rebuild his house. On the now-defunct page, the 32-year-old wrote that he needed cash to help pay for the damage because he, quote, didn't really have a lot of money. Nethkin was arrested on October 18th and has now been charged with first-degree arson. It looks like he's going to have even less money now because according to the last available update, he was being held in the county jail on $20,000 bond. A 30-year-old Connecticut man probably isn't going to be winning a Father of the Year award anytime soon after he reported his son missing on an allegedly drunken trip to a local supermarket, only for it to later be determined that the child had been left at home. According to reports, the incident began just before 8:20 p.m. on October 23rd, when state police received a call about a missing child at a Price Chopper grocery store in the town of Mansfield. The The child's father, 30-year-old Colby Parker, said that he had left his young son inside his vehicle while shopping inside the store, but had returned to find that he was gone. Troopers were quickly dispatched to the scene and began a search, one that was backed up by 2 other local police departments and canine units. A reverse 911 call was also sent out to residents, notifying them to be on the lookout for the missing boy. Things took a turn, however, when Price Chopper employees began reviewing the store's surveillance footage and noticed something interesting. You see, Parker had actually made 2 trips to the supermarket that evening. The footage revealed that when he arrived the second time, he was alone. Sure enough, when police followed up at Parker's residence, the boy was there and unharmed. Given what happened next, it seems that it may have actually been a good thing that the child was left behind. Noticing that Parker was showing signs of, quote, possible impairment, officers had him take multiple field sobriety tests, all of which he apparently failed. The 30-year-old was arrested and is now facing charges of operating under the influence of alcohol or drugs, second-degree reckless endangerment, risk of injury to a child, and second-degree breach of peace. His son, meanwhile, was placed in the care of a family member. Representatives from Florida's Key West Police Department say that a 20-year-old college student is facing a pair of misdemeanor charges this week, following a bizarre incident in which he was allegedly caught urinating all over public property while dressed in a banana costume. According to reports, the whole thing started sometime after 1 a.m. on October 29th, when a couple of officers on patrol in Key West's Old Town neighborhood were flagged down by some concerned citizens. They proceeded to tell officers about a, quote, white male in a banana costume who was relieving himself on the side of a building that happened to be right across the street from an entire row of porta potties. Sure enough, when police went to the location in question, they found the banana man as described. His real name was Kyle Mortimer, a 20-year-old second-year student at the University of Miami, and he was pissing all over the sidewalk. When officers moved in to arrest Kyle, he attempted to give them the slip, so to speak, and took off running in a zigzag pattern. Even after being taken to the ground, the 20-year-old interlaced his fingers in a final ploy to stop handcuffs from being placed around his wrists. Unfortunately for Kyle, this proved unsuccessful, and he was eventually taken into custody. He ended up posing for his mugshot while still in the banana costume. According to reports, he was charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest, both misdemeanors.